Alright. Here we go. Welcome back to Super Sentai Review episode 487. We're here reviewing episodes 44 to 48 of Boonboomger, the last 5 episodes of this particular series. Yep, last 5, the endgame arc. So, we start out basically where, like, Toya basically goes to meet the person responsible for taking away his money, his mentor, Retito, who is now part of the Hirosha, who basically is weird look with him. Or just him in a weird suit. It's just him wearing a suit. The only thing addition is he wears like a black trench coat. And then, of course, Speeder himself shows up, and of course, Boonboomger show up too. And they start fighting, and of course, Banderas basically goes out too, because basically he's been drawn out to this. So, and Speeder is beating the pulp. He's beating basically the Boonboomgers to a freaking pulp. And Toya basically, and then of course Speeder summons a killer Robo and fights basically Banderas. And of course, Richard is like, the only way you can save him is to give me your money. It's like, fine, take it. And he presses the button, and apparently everything transfers over to lightning tech. So then, of course, he gets back his Morpher, and then he transforms, and he just about gets there, and then Spader basically stabs Banderas in the chest, absorbing all his gasoline. And he switched up from his first form, which is the Thriller look, to the Captain look, which he maintains for the remainder of the show. And Banderas he's dead. He comes back. Don't worry about that. So then, of course, basically is in the Boonboomger headquarters, where their stuff is being seized by the ISA because they have been declared enemies of Earth because of corruption. Yep. So, instead of using the regular Boonboomger base they've been using since the start of the show, 45 has the first time ever they're not using their base. Which, that is interesting. Because that changed the dynamic. At least the place wasn't destroyed or damaged, and stuff was seized. And of course you have basically Toya a lot of the remainder of the episodes. For the next couple of episodes, he's trying to fix Banderas. Now which is working. Heck, they even basically the idea to transfer energy from Banderi to Banderas to keep from decaying because he's turning to sand. Because that's according to Banderas said, basically if he died, he turns to sand. And and it starts, but look at that they do officially stop it, but it doesn't revive him. And then of course they remember, there's a mysterious disco ball. Well, actually, thanks to the previous episode, that when Joe of Gokaiger gave him that necklace from Princess Nicole, where this particular device will help in the crisis. And that's basically, that device is basically planted here in the series to lead into the finale. So, they put the device in, and of course, it does activate him. It does basically give more energy, but he's not waking up yet. So, of course, basically, in case you're curious though, is there any more distress base actually sent out in this period of time? Well, in the case of one particular episode, this is interesting. So, if I can find it here. So basically in 45, for some reason, actually there's a reason story for this, Dos Reis is revived. You're like, what? Yeah, apparently someone found his little pet he keeps on his shoulder. Someone had it with Mad Rex, and he gets revived with Dos Reis 2000. Oh, and what does he do? He's like, I'll basically have basically turn negativity toward the Boonboomgers in 2,000 minutes. And he does this by basically being a troll on social media. Yep, That's literally what he does. I wonder if basically the writer of this episode took inspiration from the Kaku Ranger 30th anniversary movie with this, because it's a very similar idea. And the public turn against Boonboomger. Oh yeah, and also the fact he gets a mask, that's how he becomes Dust Race 2000. And then of course Violet fights him, and of course the Seat Riders are trying to help him help Dust Race, and of course he tells them like, oh yeah, when Dust Race came back, basically he was one controlling his body, so his mind was restored. So the Seat Riders leave him. Yes, they leave him. And then of course Violet shoves up in the air and explodes. And Dust Race is dead. So you're like, why the heck would they bring this guy back for? Yeah, that's interesting. As far as I can tell, I'm not really sure exactly why they brought him back for, but they did. It's just by complete random. Yep, and then the very next episode, get this. Yarkar becomes basically a Grimer. Yep. He is technically the final Grimer of the whole series. And it's basically like he's brought in. Of course, you have Joe, Gemba, and Boonboomger take him on. Basically, he has the power to all the Grimers they had throughout the entire series. I thought this was a really cool idea. Basically reminding people of all these monsters that they fought over the course of the whole show, as because the show's about to wrap up really soon. And what in the world was that? Oh, great. I'll fix it in a minute. Yeah, so, and look how they was removed. There's some stuff we turned back normal, but then we have these other Yarkars come in. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these things. Yeah, apparently the whole Yarkar thing, it's revealed that, well, they're actually, how should I put this? They're controlled. It's revealed in episode 46 that, well, Risk basically controls them. Yep, he does. And then they form basically a mech, which of course is destroyed. Well, you're thinking, wait, Banderas is dead, so how do they use a mech? Simple. Banderas basically goes to mech form and fights them. Yep, and of course, Little Hope comes in, basically where that's when the whole thing with the jewel thing comes in. And then in the very next episode, stuff starts turning around for the Seat Riders, where because they kind of turned against the organization with this whole fiasco related to Yarkar, they basically are tossed aside by, of course, Speeder, and of course declared traitors. So, well, of course, Joe is basically just trying to hide. And also, in episode 46, get this. So, they had this weird cliffhanger where the only way the broker peace between the Haitian and Boonboomger is that Bunf Pink marry Speeder. You're like, what? So, repeating something from the first episode. I'm like, okay, I did not expect that at all. It's a great callback, and plus to see her wedding dress again. I think it's only the second time the whole series see her in a wedding dress. The first time was the Yakuza, now it's basically, it's the leader of a criminal organization. So, as a wedding present, she would like the Big Bang race. And Speeder's like, sure, no problem. It's all yours. Yep, she becomes the official owner of the race. Okay, yeah, there was actually revealed a little bit before this that he somehow took over it somehow, and now she owns it. Okay, I'm glad they're following with that plot thread there. And so basically Joe, well, he basically owns some kids, which of course he ends up saving a Sea Raider, so basically, well, their former lackeys, the grunts, and they kind of basically switch sides in the penultimate episode, which is interesting, given the fact that the Boonboomger has been fighting these guys throughout the entire show. Now, of course, a similar thing happened with Power Ranger, except that was pretty much all the villains of the show, except for they only kill like one villain. Actually, like maybe like two villains the whole show. This one, like, now, the whole thing with these three characters here, it kind of reminds a little bit of the characters from Boonboomger a little bit, except that, well, the big difference is that basically the female villain of this is the female villain member of this group. It doesn't have a human appearance. That's the big difference. So they kind of turned against them, and then of course it leads to the final episode where it's like, yeah, Boonboomger's together, and of course they very much fight Speeder though a lot of the last episode, and thanks to the cheers, thanks to the fact the public is turning against the Hayashin, because apparently they kind of sided with him for some reason, and so thanks to a group of kids who got this mysterious energy, and that goes Prince Nicole's necklace, which basically goes to Banderas, and then of course there's Speeder where he's about to fire this big ball of energy at the Boonboomgers who are demorphed, and then here is Banderas, alive and well. He is alive. Oh, and prior to this, basically, the division director of the ISA is arrested for corruption, for basically colluding with aliens. Rotita is arrested too for doing pretty much the same thing. Though I highly doubt his nephew be arrested because I don't think he had anything to do with this at all, sadly. So then, of course, they fight Speeder, and this is kind of weird though. So they don't go to the champion form because it's like, oh yeah, we have basically touching the back, which is what they do in the champion jacket thing, which they don't do it here for some reason, and they do it to Banderas for some reason, and like, oh yeah, you two the ones, they're Boonboomger, and of course the ones beat Speeder. It's like, we want you to release all the hijacked plants, and of course he's like, I'll test before you, and then he just dies. Yeah, he just dies. And then we jump right 7 months later, where Saba basically was become the director of the ISA. Her friend, who apparently was a villainess of the series throughout these episodes, turns out it was all an act. Oh yeah, by the way, also Bonder, part of this, basically did turn good because apparently his act was he was just acting. He never really turned against the team. I do like the fact that basically throughout 44, 45, 46, whenever they show him, they show basically a bullet drop in the ground, signaling his betrayal of the team. And then by 47, he's basically back. Basically, with 48, he's back on the roster officially. But Banderas himself is not back yet, per se. Yeah, he's not back yet. So then, of course, basically, with also Maya got fired for all of her temp jobs, which, okay. So Joe, of course, quits the police force, and yeah, he's out the police force after this. In the case of Psycho, he basically stays there, and of course, basically, they all put on their racing outfits, and they have several goals. 1, they can visit Prince Nicole's planet. 2, they can free Gemba's father, which Gemba basically smiles at, basically because he appreciates that. And 3, they're going to win basically the race. And of course, basically, where Bon Violet stays in the planet, Banderas was supposed to go with him, and he stays behind anyways. And luckily, Banderas made some more curry before he left, so basically, Sabu could basically not miss his curry. And also, she get a chance to hug him, so he nearly crushes her in the process. And so, the 5 main Boonboomgers, they go off to space with Banderas, and they enter the race, and then they have the trade-off at the end of the episode, where you have basically Banderas basically just interacting briefly with Gozuger Wolf, and he has that reaction to the face like, well, see you in the crossover, which comes out next year. Yes, and that is pretty much the show in a nutshell. Yes. Yeah, by the way, all the Boomwood Killer Robos, they're all pretty much destroyed in the penultimate episode. Yeah, they're pretty much all destroyed. Oh, in case you're curious, though, when was the final episode that was released? Back in February. You're like, really? Yeah, really. Also, Riz is destroyed too. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he gets destroyed prior to Speedo's death too. Though, of course, next thing to discuss will be the Boonboomger versus King Oranger movie, which that should be interesting. It's weird though that when they aired the episode 0 for Gozuger, it was aired a week prior to the ending of Boonboomger, and then you had the first episode of the next show, which is Gozuger, airing like, let's see, it aired like about a week, which is normal. I think I did hear something. This was actually the first Sentai in several years to end in February. Yeah, like, that was interesting. Mm-hmm. Yes. Which it had been some time for that. Now, of course, my next Sentai I mentioned basically is going to be Zoo Ranger. Mm-hmm. For those of you curious, though, how long is that one? Zoologer, excuse me. That is the same exact amount as this one, 48. That'll be discussed soon, but not yet. So, the next video basically discuss is going to be the Gojuger versus, not Gojuger, Boonboomger versus Kanonger movie. And then Sig gets Regulus, and after that it'll be, well, it'll be Backstab Backwire Dungeon, and finally on to My Dress Up Darling. Yep, I'm gonna do that second season. Then on the second season, Solo Leveling, so I can knock those two shows all the way, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start watching Return of Ultraman after that. Okay, what happens? Say, who knows? Okay, next video.